Reds team, but to have the numbers stay the same, I don't think that's going to happen.
No, obviously those numbers that he has are not sustainable. And now I think that this, you mentioned that just because he's off to a hot start does not necessarily mean anything with impact in his career. Yes, he's causing impact for the team. Yes, that is great, but also take a look and let's flash back into August of 2019. Back in 2019, August 1st is when Aristides Aquino made his Major League Baseball debut. Through the rest of 2019, he hit 19 home runs. He was one of the fastest players to ever get 15 home runs in a Major League Baseball career. When you look at what Aquino did, a lot of people were sold that he was the future right fielder moving forward. And what did he turn into? I'm not saying he was bad by any means. He wasn't bad. I think he was very underrated. He was a great fielder, but he just couldn't hit the curveball, and he became a very overhyped prospect from that 2019 season. Now you fast forward, and Aquino, I don't even think he's in the major leagues anymore. I think he's playing overseas somewhere. So not saying that the same is going to happen to Reece Hinds, but we cannot make an assumption that Reece Hinds is going to be the future right fielder or the future of this Cincinnati Reds team through 2 career games. That's not going to happen. He's got to prove more. He knows it. Cincinnati knows it. Not saying it's an Aquino situation. I'm just saying the numbers he's on, they're not sustainable. We cannot get our hopes up, although I hope that he can at least contribute.
Like I said, if he can keep the numbers that he has now consistent throughout the remainder of the season, it will be the best rookie performance ever in Major League Baseball history, and nobody in the future is ever going to be able to top it because he's got a 6.25 batting average right now. He's averaging a home run a game. There's still about 70 games left to go in the season, so he would be hitting 70-plus home runs, and he's got 3 RBIs right now. So to say these numbers are sustainable, they're not. Let's just be real. In my eyes, there's no way anybody through playing at least, and he's not going to end up playing half of a season. He'll play around, if he continues to stay with the Reds throughout from now till the end of the season, he'll play 75 games?
Roughly? I don't know. You're the mathematician.
Roughly around that.
I don't get paid enough here to do math.
Roughly around that number, the Reds have. It would be 72 total games because he's played 2. The Reds are currently sitting at 92 total games played. 162 minus 92, 70. Add 70 to 2, it'd be 72 total games. That would mean he would have 72 home runs. He would end up having over 100, I think it would be 108 RBIs. And then you keep the batting average at 625 through 70 more games. Nobody's going to be able to do that. I don't care if you're the best baseball player in the world. You're not going to be able to have those kinds of numbers. Hall of Famers failed 7 out of 10 times they went up to the plate. But like I said, the numbers don't have to be this level, but if the impact can stay the same as Reece Hinds has had over these past 2 games that he's been able to play for the Reds, and it doesn't have to be every single night, but if he has this level of impact down the road and it's a consistent, not every game, but we see it 2 to 3 times a week, maybe 4 times a week if the Reds don't have any days off in that week, I think Reece Hinds is going to be insanely good for Cincinnati because we've talked about multiple times, at least recently for this Reds team, they need a spark. They need something to get things going. And in my eyes, it's way too early to say this is it. But if Reece Hinds can continue to have the level of impact he's had over these past 2 games, he could be that spark the Reds need, especially with the fact that they've still got 2 more games against Colorado and then Miami in a 3-game series. All of those games are at home. If the Reds play at the level they've been playing at, I'm taking away the Detroit series because they just swept the Yankees before the Detroit series. But if the Reds play at the level they've played at the past 2 games, I'll say that much, this Reds team could be above 500 by the end of the Marlins and the Rockies series. But it's the Reds. I just talked about that Detroit series. They're going to somehow find a way to sweep the Rockies and get swept by Miami. That's what's going to happen.
And, with the Cincinnati Reds, here's the situation. They have been one of the most inconsistent teams, and especially that offense. They've been the most inconsistent offense all year. Out of every other Major League Baseball team, the Cincinnati Reds have been the most inconsistent. Who goes on the road to sweep the Yankees, who are one of the best teams in MLB, and then lose
to
and
a
get
struggling
swept
Detroit
to a Detroit
team.
Tigers team at home? How can you do that? This stretch coming up is the most important stretch for the Cincinnati Reds this season. Do they still have a chance to be buyers at the deadline? Absolutely they do. But if you can't win these series and can't win these games at home during this homestand against the Rockies and then the Marlins before the All-Star break, you might as well pack up your things and be sellers at the deadline. This is the most pivotal point of the Cincinnati Reds season. And Matt, frankly, they just have to find some consistency because that has been the one thing that they have lacked all year long. Time for a break. David Marshall joins us on the other side. We're talking NBA draft. That's all coming up next on Sports Now.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
I'm thrilled to be at Wittenberg at this time and place, as the university is perfectly positioned to welcome an esports program like none other. Wittenberg's impressive athletics tradition and Tiger Up spirit, mixed with a strong commitment to student success, will allow for a program that competes at the highest level while also caring deeply for each player, both personally and professionally. Esports at Wittenberg will not only be about gaming, but will also be about changing the game. Together, we will build a supportive, dynamic community as we bring our own distinct light to the global phenomenon of esports right here in Springfield, Ohio. It's time to Tiger Up. Let's go.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
I'm thrilled to be at Wittenberg at this time and place, as the university is perfectly positioned to welcome an esports program like none other. Wittenberg's impressive athletics tradition and Tiger Up spirit, mixed with a strong commitment to student success, will allow for a program that competes at the highest level while also caring deeply for each player, both personally and professionally. Esports at Wittenberg will not only be about gaming, but will also be about changing the game. Together, we will build a supportive, dynamic community as we bring our own distinct light to the global phenomenon of esports right here in Springfield, Ohio. It's time to Tiger Up. Let's go.
And now, to the TKDS studios and your host, Jackson and Matt, for the Sports Now Update Show.
Back on Sports Now, Jackson Lycap alongside Matthew Pennington. We welcome you back to the TKDS Sports Network. Joining us for the first time in a few weeks is our good friend, advanced NBA scout, and a TKDS Sports broadcaster. That is David Marshall. David, a lot has happened over the last couple weeks when it comes to NBA terms. As we mentioned earlier on in the show, Klay Thompson on the move, going to Dallas, away from Golden State. The Splash Brothers have been broken up. And also on top of that, the NBA draft. There's a lot of the NBA draft surrounding Bronny James. We'll get to that in the next 15 minutes we have you with. But let's talk about some of the top picks in this draft. And then we'll also talk about UD's finest, Deron Holmes, getting drafted in the first round as well. David, hope you can hear us. Thanks again for taking time out of your busy day.
Hey, you're coming in loud and clear, and thank you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed your break. You was missed. It's time to ramp it back up. A lot going on with the NBA. And the NBA doesn't stop. It's year round. Summer leagues next week. They're already playing in Oakland, San Francisco, and Salt Lake City. So the NBA's figured a way to stay relevant year round.
Yes, absolutely. The NBA is trying to stay relevant year round. We are trying to fix one of the issues we have. We are having some slight audio difficulties. I know Matt is trying to work it out. We are...
Just take me off the camera. I'll try to figure it out.
Yes. So Matt is going to try to figure it out here. David, we hear you loud and clear. The audience may not, so I guess I'll ramble on until Matt can figure out all the situations. And I beg your pardon for that loud screeching. That's
the problem we're trying to fix.
Yeah, that's no bueno. That's no bueno. Yeah, we take a couple week break, and then I'm sure our equipment just isn't all the way woken up yet. But yeah, nonetheless, we're gonna take a small break. We're gonna work this out with some technical difficulties. We'll be back here in a moment.
I'm thrilled to be at Wittenberg at this time and place, as the university is perfectly positioned to welcome an esports program like none other. Wittenberg's impressive athletics tradition and Tiger-Up spirit, mixed with a strong commitment to student success, will allow for a program that competes at the highest level while also caring deeply for each player, both personally and professionally. Esports at Wittenberg will not only be about gaming, but will also be about changing the game. Together, we will build a supportive, dynamic community as we bring our own distinct light to the global phenomenon of esports right here in Springfield, Ohio. It's time to Tiger Up. Let's go.
Once again, we welcome you back here to Sports Now. Beg your pardon, we had a quick technical difficulty. It's nice being able to just run ads, when we have that happen. Joining us is David Marshall, advanced NBA scout, broadcaster for the TKDS Sports Network. David, we heard you. We were just picking up some feedback. Let's try now. How does that work?
On my end, you sound fine. So, I'm good to go.
David, continue to talk. I think that we're having some issues here in the studio.
Okay. No, everything sounds good on my end. I'm sitting here watching the Euro Cup. Is this Euro? Yeah, Netherlands versus England. 1-1 tie. Second half. Down in the pitch. I do enjoy international.
We're still having some issues here in the studio. One quick break. We'll be back again.
I'm thrilled to be at Wittenberg at this time and place, as the university is perfectly positioned to welcome an esports program like none other. Wittenberg's impressive athletics tradition and Tiger-Up spirit, mixed with a strong commitment to student success, will allow for a program that competes at the highest level while also caring deeply for each player, both personally and professionally. Esports at Wittenberg will not only be about gaming, but will also be about changing the game. Together, we will build a supportive, dynamic community as we bring our own distinct light to the global phenomenon of esports right here in Springfield, Ohio. It's time to Tiger Up. Let's go.
You know the saying, the third time's a charm.
Hopefully it is.
Yes. David, I think we have you now. I think we're all good to go. Can you go ahead and try a quick mic check for us? It was working earlier during the test, and we've never had this issue with David before, so we certainly beg your pardon with that. It's technology. We know how that goes. David, you there?
We might have to reset. Microphone check 1. Microphone check 2.
Yes, we are picking you up. Once again, thank you, David, for joining us. Let's talk now. Since all that is out of the way, I think that hopefully if that's the worst hiccup we have on this show, I think we'll be sitting all right. David,
You're on the right track, baby.
David, once again, thanks for joining us. Let's talk about the NBA draft. Let's talk about the first couple of picks, number 1, 2, and 3 overall. What do you know, and how will they help the Hawks and those other teams that we're picking up in the lottery?
Well, let's talk about Zachariah Rishacher, or ZR is what I'm calling him. The biggest thing is he's very, very skilled. He played in probably the second best basketball league in the world, first being the NBA, then Spain, and then USA college basketball. That's the unofficial rank of the best leagues now. But with that being said, he's not going to be something like Luka Doncic, but uber skilled. It's going to take some time for him to transition to the NBA game. But being at 6'9", he can do multiple things. They getting stronger. You'll see a good ball player. I don't know if he's a. And what the NBA does is when they look at a draft, it's all about projection. He's 19 years old, so they're trying to project him in 4 years. And if you go back and look, I tell people all the time, you go back and look in the NBA. After 1 through 15, a lot of those guys, a lot of guys are not even in the NBA. They're not even in the league anymore. Seriously, it's it's a huge drop. So that's the risk with him. Is this going to be one of those people that's going to be? And if he's a role player and he plays 10, 11 years, that's great. But I don't know if there's an all-star in this draft, to be honest. But he'll be a fine. I could see him probably a journeyman. Probably somebody's career high is going to be 13, 14 points, just from the projection wise. And then Alex Sarr, he went through. He's from France. Now France does a tremendous job now with developing talent. Now, to be honest, though, he came to America and played with the overtime elite in Atlanta. So he got ahead of the curve by coming over here, learning how American-style basketball is played. We're a lot more defense-oriented as far as, like, if he'd have played college, he'd have probably been a better defender. But he was under Kevin Ollie, and Kevin does a tremendous job of transferring these guys over to the college ranks. Now, Kevin obviously wasn't with him the last year, but he was at the first few years of his development. So that's going to help him transition to the NBA culture, the NBA lifestyle off the court, and then on the court. I think the biggest challenge, for Sarr is that Wizards team is in a huge transformation. He's got a new coach, and they keep trying to rebuild, but it's going to be difficult because now, if you look at Boston, they got 2 homegrown stars that they're going to invest over $500 million in. And they're going to be around for at least 6-7 more years. And so you're looking at rebuilding. Can you make a run in those 6-7 years against the Boston Celtics? And I think everybody's kind of got a plan now. It's no more big three anymore where you bring a LeBron, you get 2 more people. And I always tell people that big three only worked twice. One of them was with LeBron, the other one with Boston. All them other years, it's been teams drafting and adding pieces. And nobody ever talks about that. Because LeBron's just a huge entity that it covers that up. But when you take a step back and look at it, most successful teams, Golden State, Draymond, Clay, Steph, were all drafted by their organization, stayed with them. Now you got the Boston Celtics doing the same thing. The only outlier probably would be Toronto. But Toronto's major talents are still with them. So you got to look at that. Hey, we got to draft better. We got to develop better. It's a better investment anyway. So,
and David, I love how you mentioned that your best way to win an NBA championship is drafting and developing, because remember, it all started about a decade ago where the super teams and the NBA super teams were something that was going around in the NBA. And it all started, everybody wanted to think that it all started with the Golden State Warriors because that's where Kevin Durant ended up going. But just like you mentioned, Draymond Green, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, they were all drafted by Golden State. They were all developed by Golden State. They all stuck around by Golden State. After Golden State in that dynasty where they won 4 out of 5 championships or so in the late 2010s, next thing you knew is that everybody tried to bulk up and put superstar players on the same team to try to take down Golden State. But Golden State was right there being relevant because they drafted, they developed, and their players were loyal to them. They stuck their players out. And now over the last 5 years or so, we've seen the NBA start to try to adapt that method once again. So getting a lottery pick in today's day and age of the NBA is absolutely huge. I mean, look at what it did last year with the Indiana Pacers, getting Tyrese Halliburton, taking them all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals this season. And there's so many other situations and examples that can be made out to be that way as well. So the NBA draft certainly, I think, bigger than ever in today's day and age of basketball.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that's just. I think a lot of owners don't really understand, and they're not patient. I get it. You're not patient. Some owners really want to win. They want to win now. So that's why they do those things. I still believe one of the things the NBA needs to address, I think all pro sports need to address is if you got a homegrown talent and they stay X amount of years with your organization, why isn't they are not considered a one-off, the books? as far as now these guys can be off the books versus the luxury tax. So that's the biggest thing. What hurts NFL, hurts NBA. And baseball doesn't really have a salary cap, let's be honest. Actually, I don't think they do. But those two organizations, it hurts a ton. And the biggest thing is, and it's probably they're not going to do anything about it because you know why? They just got the TV deal. The NBA is about to sign a huge TV deal. And the money's going to keep going up and up and up. But to me, it's been stated time and time again, why isn't we don't ever take care of the homegrown players? If they've stayed X amount of years and they signed that max, that shouldn't count. But, I digress. I'm not the only one that said it. There's a lot smarter people who have said it than me. So it's pretty, it's amazing that they haven't figured that out. But I also think the NBA likes that because in the summer, what happens is everybody watches free agency. People pay attention to the NBA. People look online. People talk about it, such as you and I and Matt. So Mark Cuban said it best. There's no such thing as bad coverage. So maybe that's part of the reason. Who knows?
David, real quick before we take a break, I want to get your opinion. This show, once again, anybody out there who's new to this show, it is based in Dayton, Ohio. So we like to talk about all of Ohio in general. We're talking about Cleveland. We're talking about Columbus. We're talking about Cincinnati. And we're especially talking about Dayton. The Dayton Flyers and their main man, DaRon Holmes, drafted in the first round. He's going to the Denver Nuggets. David, give us your thoughts on DaRon Holmes going out to Denver.
Well, first and foremost, I like him. Live body, plays hard. He's skilled. He's been coached extremely well. I actually feel like that. I cannot believe I can't think of his name. Coach Grant does a tremendous job, and in that little amount of time, that kid progressed exponentially as a player. And so, I think it's a win-win on both sides. And I think what Denver wants to do is add length and activity and skill to their lineup. And he's got a chance to – here's the one thing. He's a little bit older, and he has a chance to kind of sit back and develop. And if he's patient, good things will happen for him. And I think Denver does a very good job of player development. So he does have a great chance. And remember this, too. That kid is from Overland Park, Kansas. That's KU territory. So think about this. They grabbed that kid out of the backyard of Kansas. That tells you how a heck of a job Coach Grant does recruiting. So those Dayton fans and the universities that keep that guy around for that alone. But, no, I think he's going to do a good job. And I think he's going to surprise. He's older. He's been coached well by Anthony Grant. And Coach Grant spent many years in the NBA. So he has the opportunity to train some of the coaching he got in practice and how he got coached during games. It's going to transition from terminology to defensive coverage schemes. Those are two things that keep rookies on the bench. Is the terminology and how to cover pick and roll and the rotation. He'll pick that up quicker than the other guys.
And now with DaRon Holmes, I know that there's a lot of people that are questioning maybe his size. I know that getting drafted to an NBA team, I mean, in college he was great. But when you look at some of the bigger players he's going to be going up against in the NBA, may be undersized. And I know that there's a lot of people that may be concerned with that. But with that being said, it's an NBA team. I think that they know how to beef up a player. I think they've done it a time or two, and especially with the Denver Nuggets, because guess who else is in that paint? And guess who else DaRon Holmes is going to be practicing against each and every day? Nikola Jokic. So if there's anybody that's going to help DaRon Holmes improve and develop into a young star in the NBA, it's going to be the Denver Nuggets, just because of the situation that they're in and just because who he's going to be going up against each and every day in practice.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to have an issue. Here's the one thing people need to understand is there's two people on every good NBA team that take, I saw the stat, 75% of their shots. The whole game, think about that. There's two people that's going to get those shots. Jokic should probably take 30 shots if he wants, but he's going to take 20-plus shots. And then you got Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray's going to take between 18 to 20 plus shots per game. So now, and the third person is going to be the big guy. He signed a mid-max contract. The name's something I cannot believe it. I'll get to it. He's going to take 10 to 12 shots per game. So what do you bring to the court? And I'm sure Coach Grant has told him, be a star in what you do. He was a shot blocker in college. He's going to be a rim protector in the pros early on until his game develops. Rim protector, rim runner, tip dunks. That's all he needs to focus on right now. And if he can hit the trail three, trail three. That's it. You set a drag screen in transition, dive to the paint. If he can do all those things, he'll transition well. So I get it. People are going to question his size and all those things, but he's 6'9" legit. Actually, I think during the combines he measures out at 6'10", and he's got great reach. He's going to be on the floor if he adjusts, period.
David, we invite you to stay with us. Still a lot more to talk when it comes to the NBA draft. It's all coming up next here on Sports Now.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
I'm thrilled to be at Wittenberg at this time and place, as the university is perfectly positioned to welcome an esports program like none other. Wittenberg's impressive athletics tradition and Tiger-Up spirit, mixed with a strong commitment to student success, will allow for a program that competes at the highest level while also caring deeply for each player, both personally and professionally. Esports at Wittenberg will not only be about gaming, but will also be about changing the game. Together, we will build a supportive, dynamic community as we bring our own distinct light to the global phenomenon of esports right here in Springfield, Ohio. It's time to Tiger Up. Let's go.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
I'm thrilled to be at Wittenberg at this time and place, as the university is perfectly positioned to welcome an esports program like none other. Wittenberg's impressive athletics tradition and Tiger-Up spirit, mixed with a strong commitment to student success, will allow for a program that competes at the highest level while also caring deeply for each player, both personally and professionally. Esports at Wittenberg will not only be about gaming, but will also be about changing the game. Together, we will build a supportive, dynamic community as we bring our own distinct light to the global phenomenon of esports right here in Springfield, Ohio. It's time to Tiger Up. Let's go.
And now, to the TKDS studios and your host, Jackson and Matt, for the Sports Now Update Show.
David Marshall is still with us on the line, advanced NBA scout. We're talking about the NBA draft, 4:39 p.m. Eastern time. Joey Gruden joins us at the top of hour number 2 of this 2-hour show. We're live till 6. Jackson Lycat, Matthew Pennington, the entire TKDS Sports Network crew. David, once again, thank you for your time. Let's talk about the NBA draft a little bit more. And the biggest headline coming from the NBA draft was Bronny. First, he declared to the NBA draft after only averaging 4 points at USC. Didn't do practically anything at USC, and everybody knew it was just a matter of time. It was just a matter of when, but everybody knew he was going to be drafted by his dad's team, the Los Angeles Lakers. That proved to be the case. Bronny James gearing up right next to his dad, LeBron James.
Yeah, it's probably one of the worst kept secrets in NBA history, but it's okay if that's what they want to do with your draft pick. Hey, more power to them. I just think it's the optics look good one way, they look bad the other. If he becomes a really good player, hats off to the Lakers. They've seen him every day. They would see him every day, so they know what they're getting. And I could just take away the basketball skill. He's a very high character guy. He understands the NBA lifestyle. He's not going to be in awe of being in the NBA lifestyle. And he's not going to get caught up in the trappings of the NBA. Those are the things. And the other off-court challenge he's going to have is there's a ton of scrutiny already. Can he handle that ton of scrutiny? And can he focus enough to where he can perform? And will he get a chance to play? And he's got to earn that a little bit. So those are the things, and I'm not saying he won't, but those are the things that, people will look at. They're good. Everything he does is going to be looked at as a microcosm. Me personally, I thought he should have went back to college. He needed another year. But that's not my decision. I felt like that was, and I also felt like they could, and I'm sure he could have gone undrafted, but they didn't want to take that risk of upsetting LeBron, who's actually reinvesting into the Lakers going into next year. But it's a slippery slope. Because you look at one thing, I don't know about you guys, but would I really want to play ball? Now I'm a grown man. I get drafted, and I'm with my dad the whole time. So, I don't know. I think Ken Griffey Jr. is probably one of the best examples. He loved every minute of it. He got to spend every day with his dad, and he makes a great point. I didn't have that opportunity when he played in the Major League Baseball, so he's getting some of those days back. So he felt that was enormous for him. And actually, Ken Griffey Jr. said he's going to be at the first game so he can see them on the floor at the same time. So, there you go.
Yeah, and I think that it's certainly it's a very good story. It's an incredible story. Father-son duo now in the NBA. You have one of the best, if not the best basketball players of all time now with his son in the NBA playing together for the same team. It is a great story. It's not a reasonable draft pick from the Los Angeles Lakers. And if Bronny did not have the last name James right now, with his numbers that he put at USC, he would have not been drafted at all. And I don't know if he'd sign anywhere as an undrafted free agent. To me, I don't know. I don't think that he's proven enough to be a second-round draft pick in the NBA. It certainly helps having the name. I'm not sitting here saying Bronny isn't going to amount to anything in the NBA. I would love to see the duo between Bronny and LeBron James, such as what we saw with Ken Griffey Jr. and Ken Griffey Sr. I would love to see that duo because it is a great story. It is a great heartfelt moment. And any kid out there, any father out there, I'm sure, would love to have the opportunity of playing sports with his son. I'm sure that every kid out there would love the opportunity to play a professional sport with his father. I think it's a great story. I just don't think that it was the right move and the right decision. I think it seemed a little bit rushed from Bronny's end and also the Lakers' end as well.
You hit the nail. I think it was a little bit rushed. I think it was really rushed. I mean, which shocking part is the kid almost died. Literally he died. His heart stopped just a few months ago. And now you're asking this young man to play against I don't think people understand. I'll give you an example. I tried out for the NBA, 4 different teams. Probably got in the best shape of my life. And because that's the first thing they tell you. You better be in the best, especially if you're going to be one of those guys that is going to be a free agent and everything, because you're going to do multiple tryouts. To Bronny, he only did 2 trials. He only worked out for 2 teams. So far as his physical exertion, he's okay on that. But with that being said, though, it's another level of intensity, another level of your body playing against some of the top athletes in the world. So now your body's got to play at a whole nother level. And I'm not just talking about, like, strength. I'm talking about movement, guarding. Everything's heightened. And I remember after my 3rd tryout, we was going up and down, and I got therapy, and my body locked up. Couldn't move. And People don't realize that. People don't talk about that. Like, it's tough. It's a challenge. And he's got to do that now for the next 4 years to prove himself. And so, and to this day, though, he hasn't. What does he? My biggest thing is, what does he do well? And then the other thing is, whatever he does well, there's not enough tape on him. So he's not a prolific scorer, unfortunately. So there's a lot of things I just thought he needed to prove. He could have done it another year in college. And probably been the first-round pick. All intents and purposes. But now, hey, man, the horse is out of the barn now. Got to ride it, right?
Absolutely. David, once again, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us here today. We love talking to you. We certainly hope to have you coming on here sooner rather than later.
Yeah, of course. Anytime, guys. Enjoy your day. It's always great talking with you guys. And, hey, more things to come, right?
Once again, that is David Marshall, Advanced NBA Scout and TKDS Sports Broadcaster. Time for a break. We'll continue our conversation on the other side. Joey Gruden joins us at the top of hour number 2 at 5 o'clock.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions. Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
I'm thrilled to be at Wittenberg at this time and place, as the university is perfectly positioned to welcome an esports program like none other. Wittenberg's impressive athletics tradition and Tiger-Up spirit, mixed with a strong commitment to student success, will allow for a program that competes at the highest level while also caring deeply for each player, both personally and professionally. Esports at Wittenberg will not only be about gaming, but will also be about changing the game. Together, we will build a supportive, dynamic community as we bring our own distinct light to the global phenomenon of esports right here in Springfield, Ohio. It's time to Tiger Up. Let's go.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions. Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
I'm thrilled to be at Wittenberg at this time and place, as the university is perfectly positioned to welcome an esports program like none other. Wittenberg's impressive athletics tradition and Tiger-Up spirit, mixed with a strong commitment to student success, will allow for a program that competes at the highest level while also caring deeply for each player, both personally and professionally. Esports at Wittenberg will not only be about gaming, but will also be about changing the game. Together, we will build a supportive, dynamic community as we bring our own distinct light to the global phenomenon of esports right here in Springfield, Ohio. It's time to Tiger Up. Let's go.
And now, to the TKDS studios and your host, Jackson and Matt, for the Sports Now Update Show.
Welcome back here to Sports Now. Just another reminder, TKDS Sports' new show, Flying with Doug, will be on tonight. Actually, Matt, right at 6 o'clock. So pressure's on. We can't run over today because we have another show that's waiting on us, which...
We can't do what we usually have been doing for some odd reason.
We can't wait to the last second to close out the show. We don't have any leeway this time.
I will say this. I will say this much when it comes to us running over. It
usually doesn't
we're
happen.
Surprisingly,
we don't get paid overtime here. Why would we want to go over?
But no, the point I'm trying to make is I'm surprised we're kind of keeping it quote unquote on track today. The only time we ever keep it on track is when we're closing out the show. We close it around. We close it off.
Again, it's because we don't get paid overtime here, so we don't want to. Why would you stick around when you're not?
It's right around 5:58, 5:59. We try to tune things down, but
Well,
in the
nonetheless-
middle of the show, we'll have breaks at like 4:56 or something like that, and that's not even the 5:00 break. That's the one that's supposed to go before it.
Yeah,
so
no,
it's always
it's
during
always
the show.
something. It's always something.
During the show, everything is off. At the end of the show, we are always on point. So that's a good thing, right?
Now you jinxed it. So
yeah, now we're gonna be going until like 6:05 or something like that.
Yeah, you jinxed it now. Way to go, Matt. No, Joey Gruden joining us here at the top of hour number 2 to talk about the Red Scare Dayton Flyers throwback, the TBT team throwback tournament. So looking forward to that. Gonna be a great time talking to him. He used to coach a prep academy here in Dayton. I was the play-by-play announcer. That's how we were able to build the relation, and super happy to have him coming on the show in just a little bit. Matt, let's continue our NBA draft talk. Once again, let's go back to the LeBron James Bronny situation. You guys already heard my thoughts. We have about 10 minutes or so before Joey will join us. So Matt, go ahead and kind of elaborate. Well, how do you feel about Bronny James being drafted in the second round? Because again, I just gave my opinion. And to kind of further my point as well, there were a lot of players in the NBA that in the NBA draft that were more deserving of a roster spot and being drafted and being able to celebrate that with their family more than him. There were a lot of people that went undrafted that should and were more deserving of Bronny James to be picked in the second round by the Los Angeles Lakers. But again, everybody knows when you have the name and when you're the son of a legend, LeBron James, it's going to take you places, and it certainly did for Bronny. Not saying that it's a bad pick, not saying that he's going to have a bad career by any means, but like I said with David, I'll say the same thing with you, Matt. It seems rushed.
And yeah, I mean, I've already made my stance clear on the whole Bronny James getting drafted this upcoming season. I completely agree with David. I think he should have stayed in college for one more year, but that would have thrown a wrench into the mix when it comes to LeBron James and the Lakers and that whole situation that could have potentially gone on after this upcoming season. But, I mean, the way I look at it, and I've said it multiple times, the potential for Bronny in the NBA, it's there. The possibility for Bronny to be a player, and it's, like I said, in my eyes, when you take a look at what LeBron James has done in the NBA and the level of play he has had in the NBA, I don't think if you have a player like LeBron James, and it's not to say Bronny can't be anything like his father, but it's going to be near impossible for Bronny James to have the level of impact and be the level of player that LeBron James was, or is still currently in the NBA. And in my eyes, like I've said also multiple times talking about Bronny going to the NBA draft, when we talked about this and when he declared for the NBA draft, if he did not have the name Bronny James, he would have been undrafted. There is no way you could convince me otherwise. A guy who averaged less than 5 points a game as a freshman in college. Yes, he's a freshman in college, but averaged less than 5 points a game, a 3-point percentage of around 27%. You cannot convince me that if a freshman playing for a team roughly around the level of USC, let's pick another team that was in the Pac-12, let's pick Washington. Let's pick a team like that in college basketball. Let's pick Oregon State. Let's pick a team. Actually, let's go more, not UD. What were some 10C? Virginia. Let's go Virginia. A team like Virginia. Obviously, they had a pick get taken in the first round. They had a player get taken in the first round. But you got a player from Virginia, a team that is borderline fringe making it into March Madness. USC was, I think, right around the mix at times this past season. Say a freshman from Virginia decides to declare for the NBA draft, averaging 5 points, less than 27% from three, averaging less than 3 rebounds a game. That player's not even going to get looked at by, and they might get looked at by a few teams, but that player's not going off the board.
They'll have the tryouts.
They'll have the tryouts, but that player's not getting drafted. After the tryouts, that player's probably getting looked at during tryouts, and teams are suggesting that player go back to college. That's what's happening. If you have anybody outside of a player in college who is the son of a superstar in the NBA, being LeBron James and Bronny James. If you have a freshman from Virginia putting up roughly 5 points a game, has similar stats to Bronny, they are not getting drafted. They're just not. It's not going to happen. So the way I look at the whole Bronny James getting drafted by the Lakers, I completely agree with what you said. There's a lot more players that were on the board that should have been drafted ahead of Bronny, but storyline-wise, it's incredible. Realistically, it was not a good pick in my eyes. When you take a look at who was on the board, when you take a look at what Bronny was able to do in college, in my eyes, it was a bad pick. It was graded as an A. I don't see how. I don't see why it was graded as an A. Like I said, the potential for Bronny James, though, when it comes to his play in the NBA, it's there. He can be an incredible NBA player. But the expectations that are going to be there for him are going to be through the roof. Is he going to be able to live up to those expectations? I'm not saying he can't, but it's going to be very tough to do so when your father is LeBron James, one of the best NBA players to ever play the game. The way I look at it, the external pressure, the internal pressure that are going to be on Bronny James in his career in the NBA, I'm not saying that it's going to crush him and it's going to cause him to not be a successful player in the league, but it was just way too early. And like I said, you take a look at those stats. If he did not have the last name James, he was not going to get drafted by any team this past draft. And it was a weak draft as well, this past NBA draft. There wasn't those insane players that everybody's like, oh yeah, this player is going to immediately, like Victor Wembanyama. There's not this season. Yes, you had players that you know are going to have some impact. There are players that you know can make some noise in the NBA, but you didn't have those few or those select players that, yeah, these guys are number one overall picks. You already know they're going to go number one overall, and you already know when they make it into the league, there's going to be a lot of noise around those players, and they're going to be successful. There's some players like that in this NBA draft, but it's not as off the page, not as you know these guys are going to be good, and you know these guys are going to be insane players wherever they go, like we've seen in past drafts. So even in a down year, when it comes to the overall talent in this NBA draft, it was still, in my eyes, way too early for Bronny James to go to the NBA. Like I said, when it comes to how long does LeBron still have in the league, is that the reason Bronny decided to go or decided to declare for the NBA draft? I don't know those answers, but in my eyes, it was rushed. It's you take a look at his stats, you take a look at his numbers that he put up in his college career. No other player would have been drafted. It could have been a player at a player at UConn. It could have been a freshman at UConn putting up 5 points. Similar stats to Bronny, and he was playing at UConn. That player might have been looked at a little bit more intensely than that hypothetical situation I was talking about with that player from Virginia. But he still wouldn't have been drafted. He would have gone back and played at UConn, probably won another national championship, probably continued to get better because UConn is insane right now, and then probably would have been a first-round pick if he would have decided to declare for the draft his junior year or his senior year. In my eyes, it was way too early. The potential is there for Bronny James to be an incredible NBA player, but like I said, it's the way I look at it as is anybody else wouldn't have been drafted if they had the same stats as Bronny James, and if they were playing, and if they were not, they were not the son of LeBron James. No player with the stats that Bronny put up in his freshman year at USC would have been drafted to the NBA. They might have been looked at by a few teams and then suggested and recommended to go back and play college for maybe a year or two more. No player as a freshman would have been drafted like Bronny James just was.
No, absolutely not. It certainly pays to have the last name. We're going to take a small break. When we return, we're rolling to hour number 2 of this 2-hour show. Joey Gruden, head coach of the Red Scare, joining us on the flip side of this commercial break. We'll be back at Sports Now right here on the TKDS Sports Network.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, Everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
I'm thrilled to be at Wittenberg at this time and place, as the university is perfectly positioned to welcome an esports program like none other. Wittenberg's impressive athletics tradition and Tiger-Up spirit, mixed with a strong commitment to student success, will allow for a program that competes at the highest level while also caring deeply for each player, both personally and professionally. Esports at Wittenberg will not only be about gaming, but will also be about changing the game. Together, we will build a supportive, dynamic community as we bring our own distinct light to the global phenomenon of esports right here in Springfield, Ohio. It's time to Tiger Up. Let's go.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
I'm thrilled to be at Wittenberg at this time and place, as the university is perfectly positioned to welcome an esports program like none other. Wittenberg's impressive athletics tradition and Tiger-Up spirit, mixed with a strong commitment to student success, will allow for a program that competes at the highest level while also caring deeply for each player, both personally and professionally. Esports at Wittenberg will not only be about gaming, but will also be about changing the game. Together, we will build a supportive, dynamic community as we bring our own distinct light to the global phenomenon of esports right here in Springfield, Ohio. It's time to Tiger Up. Let's go.
And now, to the TKDS studios and your host, Jackson and Matt, for the Sports Now Update Show.
TKDS Sports Network, Jackson Lycap alongside Matthew Pennington, Kevin Fowler, our producer, Ivan, our engineer as well. Thank you for joining us. We roll into hour number 2 of this 2-hour show, and joining us is head coach for the Red Scare. It is Joey Gruden. Joey, once again, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us here for the next 30 minutes. Joey, hopefully you can hear us all okay. All right, we are struggling to pick up Joey's audio currently. We're going to let our engineers and our producers work that out. During that time, we're just going to take a small, quick 45-second break or so while we work it out.
I'm thrilled to be at Wittenberg at this time and place, as the university is perfectly positioned to welcome an esports program like none other. Wittenberg's impressive athletics tradition and Tiger-Up spirit, mixed with a strong commitment to student success, will allow for a program that competes at the highest level while also caring deeply for each player, both personally and professionally. Esports at Wittenberg will not only be about gaming, but will also be about changing the game. Together, we will build a supportive, dynamic community as we bring our own distinct light to the global phenomenon of esports right here in Springfield, Ohio. It's time to Tiger Up. Let's go.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
I'm thrilled to be at Wittenberg at this time and place, as the university is perfectly positioned to welcome an esports program like none other. Wittenberg's impressive athletics tradition and Tiger-Up spirit, mixed with a strong commitment to student success, will allow for a program that competes at the highest level while also caring deeply for each player, both personally and professionally. Esports at Wittenberg will not only be about gaming, but will also be about changing the game. Together, we will build a supportive, dynamic community as we bring our own distinct light to the global phenomenon of esports right here in Springfield, Ohio. It's time to Tiger Up. Let's go.
Jackson Lightcap alongside Matthew Pennington. Beg your pardon for the technical difficulties. We took a 2-week break, and we come back, and it's either A, all of the equipment doesn't want to work, or B, we just completely forgot how to run it all. And I'm going to go more than likely B, mainly because all of our producers are sitting in the background. They won't wring my neck for breaking the equipment. Nonetheless, Joey Gruden, head coach for the Red Scare. Joey, once again, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. Hopefully now you can hear us, and hopefully we hear you.
I can hear you guys. Are we all good?
We are all good, Joey. Once again,
Perfect.
It's great to have you on the show. The TBT tournament right around the corner, less than just a couple of weeks away. Joey, real quick before we get started, can you kind of describe to everyone out there who may be unfamiliar with the TBT, what is it about and what's it like being able to coach and play in a high quality event?
Yeah, the TBT is it's growing each year. The talent gets better and better, but essentially I tell people it's basically an alumni college basketball tournament. I would say about half the teams are alumni teams, and then the other half are teams playing for a cause. But I mean, those teams are even full of overseas pros and former G League guys, current G League guys, current NBA guys. I mean, the talent is really good. They recognize a lot of names in the tournament. The basketball is good. The venues are good. It's a really high level tournament playing for $1 million. So it gets competitive for sure.
Joey, you're the head coach of the Red Scare, which is the University of Dayton alumni. So a lot of the great players that came through UD over the last decade or so, now coming back to play at UD Arena right here with the Red Scare team that you're leading. Joey, kind of describe to us how you were able to get that coaching gig and how you became the head coach of the UD Red Scare and what it's meant to you.
Yeah, I think we started this about 5 or 6 years ago. First year not knowing what to expect. We heard good things about the tournament, watching it on TV as well. We thought Dayton would be a perfect fit for it, just with our fan base and, the talent that comes out. We got it going for year one. We got about 5 or 6 Dayton guys to play, and, we won a couple games, made a run. The fans were crazy, so we've kept it going ever since. And we've made the Final Four twice. We're close. Bringing back familiar faces every year. It's fun. And, it's a blast to coach in. And obviously the goal is to win the money, but, whether it happens or not, you get to, be around your old teammates, get in the UD arena again, play basketball. So it's competitive and it's a good time as well.
So, Joey, just as you mentioned, the $1 million prize is certainly eye-appealing. There's no question about that. I mean, who wouldn't want $1 million? Now, is that distributed to everybody on the team, all the coaches, all the players, or does that go back to the University of Dayton for you guys all being alumni? And then, of course, games will be played at UD Arena. Does that money all go to the players or the university or a great cause or a mix of all three?
Yeah, so we actually are playing for ourselves, as selfish as it sounds. That's why the guys want to play, though. I mean, they don't have to do it. They obviously have overseas careers, but, they enter because they're competitive and they want to win the money. So, most teams, you can divide it up however you want. Some give their best players more money, but, us, we donate it. I mean, not donate it, but we divide it equally if we do happen to win. So everyone gets the same amount of money. So we're, a true team, as I like to say, and everyone's playing for the same goal, which is win the money and have a good time doing it.
Joey, the Red Scare, of course, as we mentioned before, all made up of UD alumni. And it just so happens that the majority, there's a lot of TBT games that will be played at UD Arena. What's it feel like for some of these alumni to come back to their roots and step foot and play once again in the great, prestigious UD Arena?
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Me personally, and I know the guys as well, when when you sit down for those starting lineups and they even play some of the same music, and, you see a lot of the same faces that were at the game supporting us when we were in college. They're still there, still around. So it brings back that, nostalgic feeling. It makes you feel good inside, makes you want to play hard, makes you want to win and show out for the fans and the community. It's a really cool feeling, and being on the court with some of your teammates that you haven't played with in a while or seen in a while. It's a cool thing, and it's a good feeling. And, it's hard to describe, but it brings back a lot of good memories, and just it's a lot of fun.
Joey, kind of continuing on. So with the Red Scare, again, this tournament's been around now for about 5 or 6 years. You entered in 2019, had some great success. 2022 had some great success. Last year, maybe not so much. Coming back is what they deem the Red Scare a revenge tour. Kind of describe to us how you guys have improved over the last couple of years and what it's like coming into this year now with some experience under your belt on what it takes to possibly go in and win it all.
Yeah, I think, every year is tough. Every year it's a different challenge. It's a one and done. So you have one bad game, man, you're bounced quick, which we learned last year the hard way. It was our first time losing in the first round. It was a humbling experience. We didn't show up ready to go. India Rising, who we lost to, they showed up ready to go. They were foaming at the mouth, and, they got us. But, we learned from that last year, and, whether you want to call it a revenge tour or we're just hungry to get back out there and prove ourselves again. And take it game by game. We can't overlook anybody because every team is full of pros and overseas guys, and, anyone can beat anyone on any given night. So we just got to show up ready to go, a little more hungry this year, and hopefully we'll do that.
Joey, in 2022, you made the Final Four. You reached the semifinals. As you mentioned, last year, you lost in the first round to India Rising. Now, a lot of expectations heading into last year. You mentioned just didn't have your best stuff in game number 1. It's a one-and-done tournament. Got bounced pretty quickly, which is pretty unfortunate. But what was the locker room like after that loss last year? Coming into a tournament with a lot of high expectations, losing in the first round, was it pretty demoralizing? Were the hopes up? Are they even more hungry to get back in 2024 to try to avenge last year's first-round loss?
Yeah, last year hurt. I don't think anyone saw that coming. After the game, you walk in the locker room, just a lot of blank faces, a lot of confused faces, a lot of upset faces. I remember the guys in the locker room after that game, they all looked at each other and said, "We're coming back next year. We can't go out like that." So I know there'll be some hungrier dudes ready to go this time around. It's Dunk. I'll be hungrier. We'll all be more ready to go. Hopefully play a little harder and not disappoint. But, like I said, it's a tough tournament, one and done. You got to show up every single game ready to go, or, you're out quick. Everyone's playing for that money, and, we're playing for something to prove. So it'll be interesting, but I think we'll be ready to go.
Once again, we're talking to Joey Gruden, head coach of the Red Scare, Flyers alumni for the TBT. Joey, kind of describe to us, we're talking about, I've kind of danced around this question for the build-up, and I hope the audience has felt the build-up, but kind of talk to us about some of the alumni that used to play at the University of Dayton that will be on the TBT roster this year for the Red Scare. Who's coming back to play in UD Arena here in just a couple of weeks?
Yeah, so a lot of the names you guys will remember. I think we have 7 official UD guys. We got Scoochie Smith, which is a big name everyone will know and recognize. Jordan Seibert, obviously another huge name, made that Elite 8 run at Dayton. Ryan Mikesell was a part of that 21-2 season, special season, whatever they went. I know they didn't lose a lot. We got Daryl Davis, who's a 4-year Flyer legend. We got Josh Cunningham, who's part of a lot of good teams. And we got Trey Landers, obviously, who was also a part of those teams with Ryan and myself. And, they've all had a lot of success, and everyone will know those names. They'll be hungry, ready to go, and ready to play for the Flyer fans. And then we got a few, I like to call them grad transfers, who'll come in and help. And, a lot of the fans recognize those names as well. So we got a good group, and they're excited to play back at UD Arena.
And Joey, adding all these UD legends from over the last decade, of course, you mentioned Scoochie Smith. He played back in 2014, 2015, 2016. And then you have players like Ryan Mikesell and Trey Landers who were 2020, 2021, around that time of era as well. So when you combine players from the Flyers, they all played at the same venue. They all played for the same team. They all come from the same university. But different time periods, and a lot of them also played under different coaches as well, such as Archie Miller and then Anthony Grant, the current head coach for the UD Flyers. It may add for a little bit more different ideology and terminology entering the game. Is that something to kind of work around with you being the head coach of trying to steer everybody straight and, hey, this is the game plan we're implementing? What all goes into getting everybody on the same page?
Yeah. Me personally, I was lucky to play for both those coaches, so I've kind of heard them both out. And, good thing for Flyers is, there's a chip on your shoulder when you play for Dayton. You always got that underdog mentality, which no matter which era or which team you played for, you'll have that. So that's good. They all understand that. Yeah, that's the biggest challenge probably is we only get 3 or 4 days of real practice together. So trying to bring everyone together in those 3 or 4 days and getting them on the same page and getting them acclimated and, just getting some similar terminology for them all. It's probably the biggest challenge, but usually they do a good job, man. They're all pros. They understand how to play basketball. We don't try to overcomplicate it, but just getting them on the same page and ready to go and compete. That's the biggest thing. But once you put that Flyer jersey on, man, they all know what it is and they're ready to go.
And Joey, one last question for you before we have to take a break. And then on the other side of the break, we're kind of talk about the upcoming teams you may face in the TBT and especially your first round matchup as well. We're talking about this current 2024 TBT bracket. Joey, as you mentioned, a lot of the players on this team, you can only get 3 or 4 practices per week. And again, it's a lot harder than these guys being in college where that's pretty much their lifestyle. They're eating, they're breathing, they're sleeping basketball. Now in adulthood, more full-time jobs, more responsibilities to handle as well. Does that make it harder to get the full team together to get consistent practices?
Definitely, it is hard. It's a challenge. I mean, they're playing basketball 10 months out of the year, and some dudes won't show up and play. I mean, I've asked every Dayton legend you can think of. A lot of them have families, lives outside of basketball. They want to spend those 2 months relaxing, doing what it is they can do. But a lot of the dudes want to come play for Dayton. So everyone has a different motto or agenda. But the guys that come play for us, they're all excited, ready to go. But yeah, like you said, some have families, some have wives. I mean, some bring them, some don't. We try to encourage them to all bring them so they can hang out with the week. But, we do a good job of, taking care of them. Dayton helps us out a lot, help take care of them, giving them housing and meals and all that good stuff. So they're taken care of. They're ready to go. And it is a challenge, but it is what it is, man. Whoever shows up wants to play, we'll take them. So it's been good.
And for anybody out there who's on the fence of possibly bringing their family or their wives or their kids to Dayton, bring them. Dayton's a great town, a lot to do here, especially in the downtown area. Joey, we invite you to stay with us. We do have to squeeze in a quick commercial break. We'll continue our conversation on the other side.
Sounds good.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
I'm thrilled to be at Wittenberg at this time and place, as the university is perfectly positioned to welcome an esports program like none other. Wittenberg's impressive athletics tradition and Tiger Up spirit, mixed with a strong commitment to student success, will allow for a program that competes at the highest level while also caring deeply for each player, both personally and professionally. Esports at Wittenberg will not only be about gaming, but will also be about changing the game. Together, we will build a supportive, dynamic community as we bring our own distinct light to the global phenomenon of esports right here in Springfield, Ohio. It's time to Tiger Up. Let's go.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
I'm thrilled to be at Wittenberg at this time and place, as the university is perfectly positioned to welcome an esports program like none other. Wittenberg's impressive athletics tradition and Tiger Up spirit, mixed with a strong commitment to student success, will allow for a program that competes at the highest level while also caring deeply for each player, both personally and professionally. Esports at Wittenberg will not only be about gaming, but will also be about changing the game. Together, we will build a supportive, dynamic community as we bring our own distinct light to the global phenomenon of esports right here in Springfield, Ohio. It's time to Tiger Up. Let's go.
And now, to the TKDS studios and your host, Jackson and Matt for the Sports Now Update Show.
Jackson Lightcap alongside Matthew Pennington here on the TKDS Sports Network. Joey Gruden, head coach of the Red Scare. And first off, before we continue on, Joey, I want to give a huge shout out to Matt Pennington on the other side of the table. We were having some technical difficulties early on in the show, so Matt, being the great citizen he is, gave up his microphone so that Joey could be talking into it. So Matt, saving the interview. I'm sure that you have a lot to say on the other side of this interview. But Joey, kind of continuing on with the TBT tournament, starting up here in just a couple of weeks. What's the excitement level like for the team? Are you guys ready to go? Or are you guys losing sleep about trying to get out on the floor playing once again at UOD Arena? Or are you guys just nice, calm, cool, collected and saying, hey, it comes when it comes?
Yeah, the closer it gets, the more itchy you get to play. Heard a lot of dudes text me, and we're talking in group text and all that. Everyone's excited, ready to go. Everyone's in the gym every single day, sending pictures and videos. So everyone's ready and excited. We all get in next week, I think the 16th. So we'll get 4 good days of practice. We'll get a scrimmage in, and, we should be ready to go by game time.
Absolutely, Joey. And when we talk about your first round matchup, you guys are going to be going up against 7. You guys are ranked the 2 seed. You guys are going to be going up on July 20th, 5 p.m. Eastern time. If you guys can't make it down to the arena, watch on FS1. You guys are going up against DeGuy St. Louis. Tell us a little bit what Don't give away your whole scouting report, obviously. We're not trying. We're rooting you guys on. We're from Dayton. We're rooting on the Red Scare. So don't give away your whole scouting report. But what do you know about the team DeGuy St. Louis?
Yeah, I know they started off as like a YouTube sensation. They got a couple dudes who are actually really funny on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and that stuff. But, they entered a couple years ago. I think it's their 3rd year doing it. They took Team Arkansas, who was also a 2 seed, down to the wire 2 years ago. They lost by like 1 or 2. So they got some dudes who can play. They got a guy named Jordan Barnett who's really good. Played at Missouri or Texas, one or the other, but he's really good. They got a St. Bonaventure kid. They got a couple St. Louis guys that we'll know. So, a lot of familiar faces we've played before or seen in our conference we'll recognize. But, they'll be good. They have nothing to lose. They're the underdog. They'll come in firing it up, and, they'll be excited. It's a tough tournament. Everyone's good. Everyone's professional. So, you never know what you're going to get until the ball tips up. So, but we'll be ready to go and get our guys ready to play.
Joey, as you mentioned, DeGuy St. Louis, they have a couple of guys from St. Louis University alumni. They have somebody from St. Bonaventure's as well. Now, of course, we all know St. Louis, St. Bonaventure's, University of Dayton, all in the same conference. We're going to see some alumni from Dayton play some alumni from those other schools in game 1 and even throughout the tournament. Could that possibly re-spark a bit of a rivalry during the stretch of the TBT?
For sure. A lot of these dudes played against these dudes when they were in college, and, it's always bad blood in the conference. So they'll recognize each other. They know each other's game. Personal beef, I don't really know, but, we'll be excited to play. It's always nice kind of knowing your play a little bit, but, when the ball tips, we just got to play together as a team and we'll be all right. But yeah, like you said, there's a lot of good players in it, a lot of A-10 guys. So it'll be exciting, and the fans will have, people to cheer for and know who they're watching.
And Joey, looking ahead now, I don't want to get too far ahead because obviously you guys have to take care of DeGuy St. Louis, but there could be a possibility that if you guys win and Carmen's crew wins, we could see that Battle of Ohio between the Red Scare, Dayton alumni, and Carmen's crew, which are alumni from the Ohio State University.
Yes, sir. I don't want to talk about the second round too much because I fell into that trap last year. So game by game, but, the fans obviously keep talking about it. So if we can somehow match up with them round 2, I know the fans will be rocking and the place will be crowded and all that good stuff. It'll be exciting, but we just got to take care of, round 1. But, yeah, Ohio State Dayton will be another awesome matchup and, give the fans something to watch.
And Joey, just a couple more. I know we only have you for a couple more minutes. Just a couple more questions for you. Outside of you guys, because I think we know that this is you would put yourself as a unanimous answer. But what are some other teams to watch out for, and who else do you think are going to be some of the top dogs in this year's TBT?
Man, there's a lot I've been seeing going around. Just in our conference, I think we have a really good division, or whatever you would call it, region. But Carmen's Crew is always really good. They've won it all before, so they'll be a tough test. We also got the defending champs in our region. They're the 1 seed, Heartfire. They won it all last year. They got a team full of good dudes who can play. But then you got teams in the other regions. You got a Xavier team who's always good. Cincinnati's good. You got the Kentucky team is a brand new team, but they got some studs. They got NBA guys. You got a Louisville team with a bunch of NBA guys. So, I mean, the teams are getting tougher and tougher, but, you never know. You just got to take care of your business and, go game by game and then see what happens. But, yeah, there's a lot of good teams and a lot of good players in this year's tournament.
Well, Joey, once again, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to having you in Dayton once again. We were talking during the break. Obviously, you're residing in Florida, and we were talking and during the break, you mentioned you don't miss the cold of Ohio. Now, Joey, would you believe me when I told you that it's July 10th in Dayton, Ohio, and it's about 70 degrees outside? That's it.
Wow. That is nuts. It's about 95 down here in Florida, so I would actually probably rather be in Ohio right now, but that's the only time.
Once again, Joey Gruden, head coach of the Red Scare. Joey, once again, thanks for joining us. We'd love to have you back on after the tournament. Best of luck to you, and we'll certainly be watching and cheering for the Red Scare.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing everyone next weekend.
Once again, that is Joey Gruden, head coach of the Red Scare. Time for a break. We're going to change focus. Joe Burrow had some comments to say, speaking about what the upcoming season is going to be like for the Cincinnati Bengals, and also on top of that, what the NFL schedule should look like moving forward. That and more coming up next here on Sports Now.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
I'm thrilled to be at Wittenberg at this time and place, as the university is perfectly positioned to welcome an esports program like none other. Wittenberg's impressive athletics tradition and Tiger-Up spirit, mixed with a strong commitment to student success, will allow for a program that competes at the highest level while also caring deeply for each player, both personally and professionally. Esports at Wittenberg will not only be about gaming, but will also be about changing the game. Together, we will build a supportive, dynamic community as we bring our own distinct light to the global phenomenon of esports right here in Springfield, Ohio. It's time to Tiger Up. Let's go.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
I'm thrilled to be at Wittenberg at this time and place, as the university is perfectly positioned to welcome an esports program like none other. Wittenberg's impressive athletics tradition and Tiger-Up spirit, mixed with a strong commitment to student success, will allow for a program that competes at the highest level while also caring deeply for each player, both personally and professionally. Esports at Wittenberg will not only be about gaming, but will also be about changing the game. Together, we will build a supportive, dynamic community as we bring our own distinct light to the global phenomenon of esports right here in Springfield, Ohio. It's time to Tiger Up. Let's go.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
And now, to the TKDS studios and your host, Jackson and Matt, for the Sports Now Update Show.
Jackson Lightcap alongside Matthew Pennington here on Sports Now. Matt, it's certainly good to be back. I think that outside of the technical difficulties, I think it's been all right. I don't want to speak too soon, but like I mentioned before, we didn't have these technical difficulties before taking the break, and we tested you. We came into the studio yesterday. We came into the office yesterday.
We fixed one of the problems that I was having with my headset,
and we worked everything out,
and it was fine. Yeah,
and everything we left here, everything was working, everything was good. We come in today, and Matt, I'm going to just say
that is the first time we've ever had any feedback issues.
I'm just going to go ahead, and even the audio issues as well. I'm just going to go ahead and say this real quick, okay?
We shouldn't have taken that break.
No, it's either the equipment is broken or they're trying to wake up from their break, or we just forgot to run it. We just forgot to know how to run it. And I'm going to go with option B.
It's not
we
Monday
forgot to run it.
Come on, wake up. It's middle of the
Monday.
week already.
I know, but it's Monday for us at this show. But here's the thing.
For the show, yeah, technically.
Here's the situation, Matt.
Not really, but
I'm just going to sit here and say that we forgot to run it because I know my boss is over sitting there in the corner, and our producer and executive, Ivan and Kevin. If I say anything's broken, they're going to come over here and wring my neck. And I don't want that.
After you.
Yeah, and I don't want that. I kind of like who I am, so I don't want any. I don't want to be. But
RKO'd to the desk.
Yeah, no, I don't want that. I'm kind of happy and content with who I am. So it could be the equipment. I'm just going to take the blame for this. It's something that you learn over time. It's something that you learn with age. Owning up to mistakes that sometimes aren't even your fault may just make everything easier. Nonetheless, Matt, moving on. Before we move on, we just got off the phone with Joey Gruden, head coach for the Red Scare, the Dayton Flyers alumni team in the TBT tournament. Matt, I know you didn't have your mic. You were a great guy and gave up your mic for Joey so that he could be able to do the interview with us and that he could hear us and you could hear us and yada, yada, or he could say stuff and we could hear him, yada, 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 yada. I know you have a lot of stuff to say. What do you think about the TBT roster for the Dayton Flyers? And then we're going to move forward on with the show with some of Joe Burrow's remarks.
All I know is hearing those names from the roster has me excited for what to expect from the Red Scare for this upcoming tournament. I mean, I've talked about multiple different times the fact that I love UD. I love the University of Dayton. I went there for a few years. I love everything to do with UD basketball. But hearing the names Scoochie Smith, hearing the names Ryan Mikesell, hearing Trey Lander, hearing all of the names that are going to be on this roster that formerly played at the University of Dayton, I don't get how, as a UD fan, you can't be excited for what the Red Scare is going to, what the potential they have, and what to just even to see the Red Scare do this upcoming TBT. So, the way I look at it, like I said, you take a look at the roster, you take a look at Joey Gruden coaching the team. How can you not be excited for this year for the Red Scare, for this tournament? How can you not be excited for it? I know I am. If we can't get media credentials to go in, I'm going to be watching the games. So I'm excited for it. I know it's this Red Scare team should be able to make some noise. I would expect them to make some noise for this upcoming tournament, and I'm excited to see what the Red Scare can do. I mean, they're a 2 seed in the region. It's obviously when you've got Carmen's Crew, Ohio State alum, and you've got Heat Fire, the team that, like Joey said, won it last year, it's going to be a tough region to come out of. But this Red Scare team, they can, in my eyes, when you take a look at this team, they can go toe-to-toe with some of these teams. They can go toe-to-toe with some of the, and you take a look at the Dayton region, you hear Carmen's Crew, you hear the Red Scare, you hear Heat Fire, and you know you know it's going to be a tough region. There's no other way of looking at it. It's going to be a tough region. But the way I look at this Red Scare team, they can go toe-to-toe with some of these guys. They can go toe-to-toe with these teams. So I expect the Red Scare to make some noise. I would love to see them make some noise, being someone who went to UD, loves pretty much everything to do UD basketball-wise. I'm excited for it. I'm kind of upset that we've got to wait until next week to see the games take place, but I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be fun.
Next week's just going to be a great week, Matt. Obviously, you have the TBT tournament tipping off that Saturday. College football 25 making its return next Friday. Early access on Tuesday. I get the early access. Ha ha ha. No,
I might end up getting the early access myself pretty soon, but I'm excited for that as well. But yeah.
Yeah, no, nonetheless, let's kind of move on with the show. I think we've talked quite a bit of basketball on this show. Let's talk about Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow. And Matt, obviously, with that 2-week break we just had, still a lot of catching up to do. That's the reason why we have a show tomorrow and we have a show on Friday. But Joe Burrow, he went on he ended up speaking to the media, and he went on a podcast, and he was talking quite a bit. Obviously, a couple of the remarks that he said that it seems like he feels like a lot of people forgot about him because of his injury last year. A lot of people forgot about what level of play Joe Burrow can stay at, and Joe Burrow went out and said, yes, he's going to give them something to talk about this year, which as a Bengals fan, you got to love that. Joe Burrow also said his goal is to stay healthy for the entire season. I hope that's the case. If there's not a player out there that says my goal is going to be to stay healthy for the entire year, then yeah, but no, nonetheless, just jokes. I know what he meant. And with his injury history, I think that's good to hear, although that's probably a given at this point. But no, and then he also, Matt, this is kind of the main focus I wanted to talk about. He went ahead and the question was asked to him if Joe Burrow, and before I say this, Matt, I'm going to sit here and say, not just because I'm a delusional Bengal fan, I'm not saying that whatsoever, but Joe Burrow for commissioner for the NFL as soon as he's done playing. Because, Matt, hear out this idea, and I'll give you your thoughts, okay? Obviously, Roger Goodell, right at the week of the draft, was flirting with an 18-game schedule, a 19-week season. Now, Joe Burrow went out and said, they asked him about that, and he said if they play 18 games, he's for it, he loves it, but you've got to give players 2 bye weeks. And here was his solution. Keep 1 bye week the same, where it's alternating week. And then your second bye week, it's not an alternating week. It happens right in the middle of the year, maybe on the back end of the middle of the year, week 12, week 13, I think is what he said. And you make that week, everybody's off, and you make that week the Pro Bowl week, because he thinks that that'll increase ratings for the struggling Pro Bowl. Everybody gets 2 bye weeks. You get more football. That backs the Super Bowl up to play the Sunday right before President's Day. Bada bing, bada boom. Joe Burrow for commissioner as soon as he's done playing, which hopefully is not anytime soon.
Yeah, I would say when it comes down to the middle of the season, kind of having that be the
NBA does it, NHL does it, Major League Baseball does it. Why does the NFL not do it?
I would say the way you've got to look at that idea and the way you have to look at that quote-unquote sales pitch for that decision, in my eyes, you would have to do it because, I mean, with football, we've talked about it so many different times. It is not a contact sport. It is a collision sport. Players in the NFL are putting their bodies on the line literally every single snap that they are out on that football field. So the way, in my eyes, you have to look at potential throwing the Pro Bowl in that week. In my eyes, if they do that, you and I arguing for the fact that why in the world is the Pro Bowl flag football now? In my eyes, the way you got to have that set up is if they do it middle of the season, it has to be flag football. It cannot be. There cannot be hits involved in the Pro Bowl.
And here's the situation that I want to throw back to you. I think that the NFL has already made it perfectly clear that the Pro Bowl is not going back to what it used to be.
Yeah,
it's not going to be a contact. It's not going to be a collision sport in the Pro Bowl. The Pro Bowl has gone more to Pro Skills Challenge, which is okay. I mean, Major League Baseball has the Home Run Derby. Hockey, they have a Skills Challenge. NBA, they have the dunk contest, the three-point contest, and then a skills challenge on top of that. So the NFL has gone to a skills challenge. That's okay. All the major sports out there are, but the game is flag football, and it is not contact. But with that being said, the NFL has, it seems like they've made it perfectly clear that they are not going back to a contact Pro Bowl. And I think that's one of the reasons why the Pro Bowl has been suffering. One of the reasons why they have not had the Pro Bowl middle of the year is because it was contact. And obviously, a lot of players are going to decline playing in the Pro Bowl in a contact game if it's middle of the season compared to at the very end of the season because they don't want to hurt themselves or hurt their team later on down the stretch. But here's the situation now. Now it's not contact. Now it's flag football. Now you can adjust that Pro Bowl and send it to the middle of the year where everybody else gets a second bye week. Then you can get an extra game in. This is exactly what Joe Burrow was talking about when he said what he wanted to do with the schedule. And Matt, with everything, I think it makes sense. And I think that Joe Burrow just fixed the entire NFL schedule problem.
And I would say,
I'm sure he had some help.
Yeah, I would say the other thing that you have to take into account in my eyes, if we were to go and if we were to ever see a 2 different bye weeks, one of those bye weeks being everybody's off, it's Pro Bowl week. In my eyes, the way you have to set that up, and it's not that this is the set in stone, there's no other way you can go about it. In my eyes, the way you have to set that up would be Pro Bowl. You talk about putting it in the middle of the season. In my eyes, you can't do that. In my eyes, you have to put it as a back half of the season. It's somewhere in there. And then every team's bye week is not the week prior to the Pro Bowl, but in that, I would say you'd have a 2-week cushion where there's 2 weeks of every team doesn't have a bye week. Then you have the bye week with the Pro Bowl. Then you've got maybe 4-5 weeks of the NFL season after that.
Right when the playoff is starting to heat up.
And everybody's first bye weeks of the season are between week 2, and I think that would put it between 2 and 8, maybe.
I don't know. I think
way
2
too
would
early.
be a little bit too early.
But
maybe between 4 and 10, 4 and 11, like it is now.
In my eyes, the way if you were to set up 2 bye weeks, you cannot have the Pro Bowl dead center of the season.
No.
In my eyes, you cannot have it dead center of the season. You would have to, in my eyes, have it back half of the season. Leave
Week 13, week 14, I think is perfect.
Leave 4 to 5 weeks. Yeah, I think going week 2 is way too early. For some reason,
You play one game and then get a bye week.
Yeah,
Come
and
on,
then you
Matt. This isn't college.
And then you have
although college
then you
is
have 12
mimicking
more
professional,
weeks, and then you have 12 more weeks.
Although
and
we're
then
starting to
the
see
Pro
collegiate
Bowl weekend off or Pro Bowl week off. But yeah, the way I see it is you would have to have the Pro Bowl, and you wouldn't have it early season because there wouldn't be a big enough sample size for what players are doing. Obviously, the way the Pro Bowl is now, let's be real, it's no longer it somewhat is statistic based, but it's now more of a popularity contest because you've got fans voting for players to make the Pro Bowl. It's becoming somewhat of a popularity contest. It's not entirely a statistic-based Pro Bowl now, which, I mean, I understand it.
And I think
because for the Pro Bowl, you want to see your favorite player in the Pro Bowl.
And you could say the same with any other major sport. And actually,
Yeah.
Matt, you brought me into my next point. Make sure to tune in tomorrow, 4 to 6, because we're going to be talking about the Major League Baseball All-Star Game. And Matt, that has turned into a popularity contest as well. A lot of players that were snubbed. That's neither here nor there. Tune in tomorrow from 4 to 6. We'll talk about it then.
And yeah, to continue the point I was trying to make, though, if you were to see 1 week during the season be a bye week, every team's got the bye week, and that's Pro Bowl week, you've got to have it not exactly in the last month. If it's not in the last month, it's a week before the last full 4 weeks of the NFL season. And then we go playoffs after that, obviously, after the regular season comes to a close, yada, 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 all the way down to the Super Bowl. But the way, in my eyes, you would have to set that up is between 4 to 6 weeks left of the regular season. That's where you slot in that last bye week. I would hope, and if it were to ever happen, I would want to see it be 4 to 5 weeks left to go in the regular season. And then everybody's scheduled bye week in the first half of the season, it's not going to be everybody's got week 7 off. Nobody's playing week 7. Everybody's got that as a bye week, but probably shuffle it in between week 4 and 10. Those would be the weeks I would want to see the bye weeks, because it's not going to be that effective having a team have a bye week 2 weeks before the Pro Bowl weekend or before the Pro Bowl week. So you have you have game, bye. That wouldn't really be that effective when it comes to the argument of giving players rest, giving players that time off at the optimum time of the season. Having the schedule be game, bye week. Then you've got the last stretch of the season. That's not going to be that effective because you got the players playing an insane amount of games before that first bye week. Then they've only got one game, and then they've got another bye week, and then they've got the remainder of the season. In my eyes, you would have to set it up as between week 4 and 10 or week 4 and 9 that you would see those first round or those first bye weeks of the season for each team, because if you put it too early in the season, it's not going to work. If you put it too close to that Pro Bowl week off, make it All-Star week, make it like baseball. But if you have that, if you were to have the bye week, the first bye week that each team has, nuzzled up right next to the Pro Bowl weekend or the Pro Bowl week, it's not going to be effective. It would be like I said, putting your team's first bye, or as of right now, it would be like right now in the NFL, a team's bye week happening week 2, or having right now an NFL team's bye week come week 17. It's just not going to be good, because you're going to have whatever team or whatever 2 teams would have those byes in week 1, or not week 1, in week 2 or week 17. They are going to be decimated they would be decimated after that bye week if it was week 2, or they'd be decimated going into that bye week in week 2. And if it's a team like, I think Washington had a late bye week last year, you would have a team like Washington. I'm not saying that they're not going to do anything this year. I expect Washington to improve a little bit, but you're going to have a team like Washington play 16 games on the season, get absolutely decimated, probably not have a chance of making the playoffs, and then they've got a bye week. It's just, the way that would be set up would be horrible. So if we were to see 2 bye weeks, if we were to see an extra week of the regular season, you have to have that. If there's a Pro Bowl bye week slotted in the back half of the season, it would have to be, in my eyes, with about 4 weeks left to go, about a month left to go of the regular season. It's the week prior to that last month of the season. And then the other bye week's got to be somewhere in between week 4 and 2 to 3 weeks leading up to the Pro Bowl. That would be how I would format it and how I would set it up. I don't know how you would want it to be set up, but that's how I would set it up in that whole talking about Joe Burrow being commissioner of the league, how he was talking about having everything set up. If we're going off of how he would have things set up, that's how I would
If we're talking about who should be the next commissioner after Roger Goodell retires, and we're talking about Joe Burrow, Matt just brought up some great points. Matt for NFL commissioner.
I don't want that job.
30, whatever.
I don't want that job.
I don't know when that is. What?
I don't want that job. It'd be fun to do for like the first month, and then
Not even. You'd probably get burnt out in the first hour. It'd be fun to do in the first hour. You change everything, and then you just back out.
I would breathe, and everyone would criticize it. So I wouldn't want that job.
That is true.
I would breathe wrong, and someone would criticize it.
That is true. Time for a break. We'll be back here on Sports Now.
I'm thrilled to be at Wittenberg at this time and place, as the university is perfectly positioned to welcome an esports program like none other. Wittenberg's impressive athletics tradition and Tiger Up spirit, mixed with a strong commitment to student success, will allow for a program that competes at the highest level while also caring deeply for each player, both personally and professionally. Esports at Wittenberg will not only be about gaming, but will also be about changing the game. Together, we will build a supportive, dynamic community as we bring our own distinct light to the global phenomenon of esports right here in Springfield, Ohio. It's time to Tiger Up. Let's go.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
I'm thrilled to be at Wittenberg at this time and place, as the university is perfectly positioned to welcome an esports program like none other. Wittenberg's impressive athletics tradition and Tiger Up spirit, mixed with a strong commitment to student success, will allow for a program that competes at the highest level while also caring deeply for each player, both personally and professionally. Esports at Wittenberg will not only be about gaming, but will also be about changing the game. Together, we will build a supportive, dynamic community as we bring our own distinct light to the global phenomenon of esports right here in Springfield, Ohio. It's time to Tiger Up. Let's go. I'm thrilled to be at Wittenberg at this time and place, as the university is perfectly positioned to welcome an esports program like none other. Wittenberg's impressive athletics tradition and Tiger Up spirit, mixed with a strong commitment to student success, will allow for a program that competes at the highest level while also caring deeply for each player, both personally and professionally. Esports at Wittenberg will not only be about gaming, but will also be about changing the game. Together, we will build a supportive, dynamic community as we bring our own distinct light to the global phenomenon of esports right here in Springfield, Ohio. It's time to Tiger Up. Let's go. I'm thrilled to be at Wittenberg at this time and place, as the university is perfectly positioned to welcome an esports program like none other. Wittenberg's impressive athletics tradition and Tiger Up spirit, mixed with a strong commitment to student success, will allow for a program that competes at the highest level while also caring deeply for each player, both personally and professionally. Esports at Wittenberg will not only be about gaming, but will also be about changing the game. Together, we will build a supportive, dynamic community as we bring our own distinct light to the global phenomenon of esports right here in Springfield, Ohio. It's time to Tiger Up. Let's go.
And now, to the TKDS studios and your host, Jackson and Matt, for the Sports Now Update Show.
Final last few minutes in the show. I want to say 8 to 9, but remember Flying with Doug on the Flying with Doug show, new show on the TKDS Sports Network coming up later tonight at 6 o'clock, right after this show. So certainly looking forward to that. Make sure to stay on the network and watch it right here after Sports Now. Matt, we have a show after us. It's happened a couple of times, but not every time. So something to keep an eye out on moving forward. But Matt, let's circle back to what we started talking about at the very beginning of this show. Cincinnati Reds baseball. Reds in action tonight again against the Rockies, looking for 3 in a row. Matt, the Reds, they win 3, they lose 3. They win 3, they lose 3. It has been a very frustrating season if you're a Cincinnati Reds fan, but you get the sense that if they find every Reds fan out there, Matt, I think has some hope, because if the Reds, you go out, you win 3 in a row. Yeah, we're back. We're making the playoffs, baby.
Then you get shot down.
Yeah, absolutely. The Reds, simple enough. I'm going to say this, and this may be a no-brainer that I'm saying this. The Reds need to quit getting shot down. Or I don't know if that was English. My English isn't Englishing. I haven't really had to talk much over the last 2 weeks during this break.
That's not true. You were just announcing boat racing.
That is true. That is true. But
I hope you knew how to talk when you did that. Otherwise, that would have been weird to listen to.
I don't know. Maybe just some words came out of my mouth. I don't know what I'm talking about. And those boats go fast on the water.
You were just talking. You didn't even know what you were saying.
Those boats go fast on the water, so I don't necessarily know the words that are coming out of my mouth. I meant to say white flag. I said red flag one time this weekend. Nonetheless, that wasn't that good, but simple enough. But no, kind of when we take a look at when we take a look at the Cincinnati Reds, they need to be consistent. They cannot they can't keep getting shot down out of the air. They're flying high, and then next thing you know, their offense is non-existent. The Reds, they go out, they pick up Austin Slater, who I don't believe is going to be the X factor for the Reds this year. I mean, he's coming to Cincinnati only hitting, I think, 209. So he's, yes, in his career, he's done solid. This year, it's been a down year. You had a 209 hitter to an average that is full of 209 hitters. Not everyone, but the majority of them. It's not that good. I understand batting average doesn't mean a whole lot in today's day and age of baseball, but the OBP is down, the slugging percentage is down, and the Reds' offense is very, very, very inconsistent. The spark right now that the Reds have, Reece Hinds. That's what they got last year with their rookies. That's what they're getting this year with Reece Hinds. Hinds has got to be the X factor moving forward into the All-Star break, and the Reds out of their next, I believe it's 5 games before the All-Star break tonight, tomorrow, and then the 3-game set against the Marlins. Matt, the Reds, I'd love for them to win all 5. They need to win at least 4 or 5.
Yeah, the way I look at the Reds leading up to the All-Star break is they've just got to find that consistency. I mean, you take a look at the last 3 series that this Reds team has had. In the Cardinals series, the 4-game series, they win 11-4 in game 1. Lose game 2, 1-0. They win game 3 of the series against St. Louis, 9-4. They lose game 4, 2-0. That's exactly what we talk about when we talk about the consistency of the offense for this Reds team. It is night and day. When it comes to runs scored in that series, they crushed St. Louis. The Reds scored 20 runs in that 4-game series against St. Louis. St. Louis scored a total of 11. The Reds crushed them when it came to runs scored in that series. They split it 2-2. Then you take a look at the series immediately after that. They played the New York Yankees, one of the toughest teams to play against in Major League Baseball. Yes, you can argue they've been on they are still one of the best teams in Major League Baseball right now.
Just look at the roster.
You take a look at that roster. You take a look at how good they've been. Yes, the argument is, they're on a little bit of a slump right now. They are still one of the best teams in Major League Baseball when it comes to the roster, when it comes to the record, when it comes to the team as a whole. The Reds went on the road and swept them. Then they come home against Detroit, and we know how that went. It was not fun. It was depressing to see what happened in that Tiger series to the Cincinnati Reds. I mean, the one thing that I have scorched earth talking about consistently every single time it's happened this year happened again. Hunter Green goes out, pitches phenomenally, 7 innings, a little bit more than he's even used to. No runs through 7 innings, 3 hits, 2 walks. He allowed 5 guys on base through 7 innings, and he didn't allow a single run. The Reds allow 5 runs in the 8th inning, and the Reds end up losing that game 5-3. And now we're starting to see the Reds go on a tear, at least so far. I hope it continues to stay this way. They're going on a tear against Colorado. Won game 6-0. Won the game yesterday after it did get a little bit quote-unquote sketchy, I would say, early when it was 5-0, delay happened, and then it was 5-4 pretty quickly after the delay went away. But the Reds got the win. They ended up winning 12-6. I just hope that with this Reds team and how it's been happening, they can play consistent through game 3 and 4 of the Rockies series, and they can play consistent in the Miami series. I would absolutely hate seeing this Reds team sweep Colorado, a team that realistically the Reds should sweep. And then they play Miami, another team that they should at least win 2 of 3, if not sweep, and the Reds end up losing the series as a whole. I've talked about loving this Reds team and then hating them at times this season. I mean, Jackson, you and I have talked about it multiple times via text, talking back and forth to each other. I still fully believe in this Reds team. It might be the Browns fan in me still believing in my team.
Hey, they're only 3.5 games out of a wild card spot, so still a lot to play for. And hey, they have the 2 worst teams in the NL. Reds just don't red over these next couple of series.
Just don't be like the Reds and play to your level of competition. That you talk about the consistency. I think that's another thing that this Reds team struggles with. They play to the level of their competition. They have played great against great teams, but they've sucked against teams that aren't good. That's just how the Reds have been this year, though.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately.
Matt, we did receive a comment. David Burns watching from Cedar Hill, Texas. David, my friend, thank you. It's always great to hear from you, my friend, and it's always great to just know where everybody's out there watching. So nonetheless, alongside Matthew Pennington, our producers, Kevin Fowler and Ivan, our engineer, I'm Jackson Lycap. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for dealing with us. We're going to sign off. Just another reminder coming up here in 2 minutes. Flying with Doug show right here live on the TKDS Sports Network. Stay tuned to watch